Welcome to Whilton Mill here in Northamptonshire for the opening round of the Ginetta Super 1 Rotax Max National Karting Championships. Karting is the main feeder sport for the majority of motorsports, including Formula 1, where drivers start their race careers as young as 8 years of age. Race commentator Alan Tadei takes a look back at a sport first introduced to the UK in 1959 that's a whole lot different today.
Since American Art Ingalls designed the first kart in 1956 and American Airmen brought karts to the UK in 1959, the sport has come a long way. The Super 1 British Karting Championships is now the premier series in the UK and widely considered by many as the most competitive national championship series in the world. British drivers have had significant successes in European and World Championship events over the years. Terry Fullerton, who was the teammate of Ayrton Senna in the DAP karting team in the 1970s, Senna himself described him as the best he'd ever raced against, won the World Championship in 1973. Mike Wilson won the World Championship 6 times from 1981 to 1989. Nigel Mansell started his career racing karts. Jenson Button raced in the TKM class and was European champion in 1997, with Lewis Hamilton a multiple British champion. The Super 1 KF3 champion last season, Jake Dennis, also won the Under-18 World Championships. Earlier, Michelle caught up with somebody that knows a thing or two about the history of the sport and Super 1.
I'm joined by Graham Smith, the Super 1 press officer and secretary for the Association of British Kart Clubs. Graham, the sport of karting has been around in the UK since 1959, and you've been around for a lot of that. How do you think it's changed over the years?
Well, in the early days, of course, people just used to bring their karts on a roof rack or in the back of a little van or something like that, and it was just the dad, the kid, or mainly in the early days, the youngsters didn't even race. It was mainly adults, and it was so tremendously popular. There was hundreds of manufacturers. There was 5,000 spectators used to go to some of the early meetings. But now the whole sport's changed. It's much more professional. We've got a lot of bodywork, crash-tested bodywork on the karts to make them a lot safer. The big teams are involved now. It's obviously seen as a route to Formula 1 and professional motorsports. So some people are spending a lot of money getting their kids and their youngsters on that step ladder towards Formula 1. So, you know, the whole sport has changed at the top end, but at the bottom end, at the club level, it's still a very economical sport to compete in.
And also, as you said there, you used to get about 5,000 spectators and there'd only be 20 drivers racing. Now there's a lot more than that, and we have TV involved. How do you think the sport is growing or will grow in the future?
Well, television obviously does showcase the sport. It's still worth coming along to watch in person, but the TV can get right to the bottom of the action and show the karting and the teams and the drivers to a much bigger extent than we used to be able to do.
In recent years, karting in the UK has largely been dominated by the 125cc Rotax Max engine series, with both junior and senior versions of the water-cooled engine with a push-button starter. Michelle spoke to Daryl Smith from Rotax about its success.
Rotax Max has pretty much dominated karting in the last 5 years throughout the UK and most probably throughout Europe. Why do you think that is?
Over the years, the karting has evolved immensely. Back in the early days, the engines were very high revving. We're talking, say, 10 years ago. Very high revving, broke down quite a lot and cost a lot of money. Rotax decided to change all that, make an engine that was a lot cheaper, easier to use, also for the novice coming into the sport, and just environmentally friendly and basically a lot cheaper.
Now, there's 2 versions of the engine we're going to be seeing today, the junior and the senior. What's the differences between the two?
Junior engine and also a Minimax version as well. They have a restrictor in the Minimax class. The junior has a little bit more horsepower without the restrictor. And leading into the senior category, they have a power valve, which is operated by the exhaust pressure. And that in turn gives it more horsepower once again, so the seniors have a lot more speed than both the junior and the Minimax classes.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for your insight there, Daryl. In today's programme, we'll be watching highlights from 4 of the races in the first round of the championships. But before then, let's hear from Alan and who he thinks are the 3 drivers in each class to look out for this season.
In Rotax 177, 3 to watch out for are the top 3 seeds from 2010. Colin Davis finished 4th last year and will be looking to break into the top 3 this time round. But I fully expect the top spot to be business as usual between Dave Griffiths, the fastest man in time qualifying who finished second last year but who has already won Final 1 earlier in the day, and Lucas Orrock, the only Super 1 champion in any class still competing in the same class this season. Lucas started on fire last season, and if Griffiths is to beat him this time, he needs to extinguish the Orrock flame quickly to establish the alpha male position. In Minimax, the 32 kart will be driven by Ross Gunn, who's made the move from cadets last year into the junior category and is already looking impressive. Look for him as a top 3 contender. The top seed finished second last year and halfway round the last race of the season had the title in his grasp, only for George Russell to wrest it away. But Harry Webb is most people's idea of the champion-elect this time. For me though, I'm going for someone off the radar of most, Ben Hinsley. 15th in last year's series, got involved in trouble early on in the season, crashing out regularly, but showed some form at the back end of last year and carried that through the winter schedule. I'm tipping Ben Hinsley, the 15 kart, for this year's Minimax crown. In junior Rotax, Jack Aitken, driving the 69 kart, has moved up from Minimax and looks like he's made a comfortable transition into the junior category. He could go close, as will the 8 kart of Nathan Harrison, the second highest seeded driver still in the class. But the man they all have to beat is a driver who finished 4th last year and 4th again in the recent World Junior Championships, despite leading into the last lap there. I expect Jack Barlow to be the one to beat, and if anyone does, they should win the title. In senior Rotax, it's wide open this season, with several of the top runners having moved into the KGP class. One driver who's moved from juniors into seniors is Sean Babington, driving the 22 kart. He's already impressed in the senior class and looks a worthy contender. Jake Ball finished second last year and he'll go close again, but the man who finished on fire last year was John Stewart, winning consistently towards the end of last year's campaign and stealing 3rd place overall. He's not nicknamed Crash for nothing though, but if he can stay out of trouble early in the season this time, I'm expecting John Stewart with the Strawberry Race team to establish dominance and take the title back to County Durham. Let's have a look at the grid positions for the Rotax 177 class, the first race coming up. Milan Mack, the oldest man in the championship, goes off 17. Carl Churchill for Surrey off 16. Then Gareth Nicolai off 15. Richard Brenton off 14. Unlucky for some, it's Paul Joslin off 13. Tom Lima from South Yorkshire comes next. Then Greg Fink. The top 10 are Danny Andrew from Lincolnshire. Dave Rendell from Walton. Tom Pitlick off 8, he's from Lincolnshire. From Southend, James Darch off 7. Off 6, Lee Taylor from Cheshire. Off 5, it's Colin Davis, one of my 3 to watch. He goes off 5. Scott Clee off 4. Tom Holland off 3. Off 2, it's Lucas Orrock, last year's champion. And the man on pole, the 2 kart of Dave Griffiths. We're underway and running then through the left-hander, turn 1. It's Griffiths who's got the whole shot. Lucas Orrock we're on board with here. Good start for Dave Griffiths. Griffiths there, the 2 kart, the pole man out front, and his biggest championship contender, one might argue, is back in 4th place there. Last year's champion, 20, has spun it round. That's Tom Lima. He's right at the back of the field now, so it's Griffiths that leads from Tom Holland. The 4 kart of Colin Davis in 3rd. Orrock is 4th. Good news for Dave Griffiths out front. Orrock is down there in 4th place, on board there with Tom Holland. Earlier heat results on your screen now. He's last year's champion, driving the 1 kart. He's the only champion from 2010 in any class this season that's competing in the same class this year. Lucas Orrock started 2010 on fire. Didn't look like anybody would compete with him, but Dave Griffiths took it all the way to the wire, to the last round of the championship at Three Sisters, but it was Orrock that did prevail in the end. He's through to 3rd place there at the inside of Colin Davis. So come through the right-hander at Inkermans. The right-hander here is Ashby. So it's Griffiths out front from Tom Holland and then Lucas Orrock. Just have a look at the 4 kart there of Colin Davis. Behind Davis is the 16 kart of Scott Clee. Scott's first appearance in the Super 1 Championships. He was the club champion at Rye House in 2008, Buckmore Park in 2010, and a former national schools champion back in 2002, so got a bit of pedigree. Scott Clee, not seen him before. Oh, the Griffiths has got a problem, the leader, the 2 karts. He's fiddling about with his carburettor there, but it looks like he has gone. So Dave Griffiths, who came into this race having led the first final, won the first final, I beg your pardon, and it gets even worse for him because his biggest competitor in the championship, Lucas Orrock, has just taken the lead over Tom Holland. So Griffiths out, and they are vital points lost for him. It's Lucas Orrick, last year's champion, that has taken up the mantle at the front. We're on board with him there, looking back on the 6-carder. Tom Holland there in second place. In third place, in close order, it's Colin Davis as they come through the boot. Scott Clee, the 16 cart there in fourth place. We'll be hoping to turn that into a podium at some point, but got a little bit of work to do. Very close at the front as the cart stream through the start-finish line, through the left-hander at Crook. The right-hander was Oblivion coming out onto this main back straight. Back on board with Lucas Orrick there. 57 card of Dave Rendell tries to make up a place on 36 James Darch, but Darch gets him on the switchback. Lucas Orrick it is that leads it then. Back on board with him, up into the left-hander here at Parker, and then down to Chapman, this little hairpin, through the kink, out onto the inside straight. Davis under pressure now from Scott Clee. Scott looking quite racy in the white helmet. Tom Holland, the 6-cart's put in the fastest lap at 46.08. Lap record stands at 45.36. That's to Luke Woodland, not appearing in the championship this season. Luke, member of the South Yorkshire Kart Club. Conditions today probably not conducive to lap record times as Clee goes up the inside of Colin Davis for that third spot on the podium. He will be well happy with that. He come through increments, he'll be trying to hold on. Colin Davis will be trying to fight back. That was pretty much all she wrote though for the main positions. As you come into the last lap, Orrick has extended his lead over Tom Holland. Through the boot for the final time, it was Orrick that took the win then from Tom Holland there in second place. Coming through to third was Scott Clee. Fourth, Colin Davis. In fifth place, Dave Rendell. And rounding out the top 6 was James Darch. After the race, Michelle caught up with the top 3.
Scott, you take third place. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, very, very glad with that. It's been a hard weekend. It's only my first Super 1 event, so yeah, really pleased with it.
You got to second pretty quickly, but you just couldn't seem to catch him.
No, like I say, in the middle I did edge back towards him a bit, but then Lucas was so consistent I couldn't hang with that pace for much longer.
Lucas, congratulations on first, but you're pretty used to it, I hear.
Yeah, last year had some great results and ended up winning the series, so I had a few wins last year, but it's great to come back to it. I've missed it over the winter, so it's really nice to come back and nice to see some new faces, the likes of Scott obviously on the podium here today, and that's fantastic, to have a strong grid, especially when karting's struggling at the moment, and I'd really urge anyone, who wants to come and give it a go, maybe at your local track, come out here and give us a bit of a race, because we need some good numbers, and but yeah, I mean, it's been a great weekend and great to come away with a win.
Well, Lucas Orrick starts 2011 like he started 2010. We'll be back shortly.